This is a kettlebell. That is a kettlebell swing, and in this video, I'm going to tell you what a kettlebell swing works, meaning the muscles involved. I'm going to try to educate you on some small little micro movements of how you can make the kettlebell swing safer and more effective, and then maybe talk about who should and maybe who should not be doing the kettlebell swing. So first of all, the kettlebell swing is really your hip hinge movement, which is the same thing that you would use with a deadlift, and your deadlift is just I'm going to get my hips back. Your hip hinge is hips back. Chest is going to kind of face the floor, and then you're here. And actually, this could be a regression of the kettlebell swing, meaning if we're doing a kettlebell swing in class, and you're looking for something that maybe is safer or more comfortable for you, that would be worthwhile to do. The hip hinge movement is your spine is tall, it's erect, and it doesn't move. It's kind of locked in place. So this becomes a core stability exercise as well. So that hip hinge movement, like I said, it's hip back and hip forward. You kind of feel a little bit heavy on your heels. Your toes don't have to come up necessarily, but sometimes there's a tendency when you do it that you're heavier on your heels, so your toes kind of do come up a little bit. Now, I'm just going to contrast this to the squat. So you can see, is that a squat? Is that the same thing as a squat? No, your squat is a little bit more butt goes down and chest stays up a little bit more. So that's more of a squat, whereas that's more of a hinge. I said I would tell you the muscles that it's working. So it's working a lot of what they call the posterior chain. That's your hamstrings and that's your butt muscles. Using a lot of hamstrings and a lot of butt muscles, and you're using your low back muscles and your mid back muscles, but you're using them more as stabilizers. And what that means is that I'm not moving through my spine, I'm moving through my hips, so I'm using a lot of muscle activation. This muscle engages to pull me upright, but my spine doesn't move. So look at that one more time. And that's really, when it comes down to safety, how to do this properly is you want to be able to have this movement, because the way that people do this wrong all of the time is that they have too much spine movement. It would look like this. That's not good. You're moving through your spine. It could go the other way too. Some people that don't have good core stability here, what they end up doing is gripping with those back muscles. And as they grip, or especially if they get fatigued, they don't have good core stability. So as they grip with this here and they start swinging like this, all those muscles are just so exaggerated with their contractions that it puts more force, more pressure on the spine, and it kind of jams the joints of the spine with all that compression. So that's another way people might injure their back, because they know, well, I'm not supposed to bend like this, so they almost overcompensate in the other direction. So before you do kettlebell swings, this is a nice little trick to do this here, to get that movement. Now, if you're really new to this, and even this is a chore, or if you have back pain, you're like, ooh, you know what, I've got back pain. Here's a little trick. You hold the kettlebell behind you, and you're just gonna do your hinge like this. Because the weight is behind me, it pulls my hips, it helps pull my hip back, and there is hardly any pressure in my low back now. So that's a really good regression to make it really easy. Again, you've got this here, just your deadlift with a kettlebell. And now let's talk about the swing. So the swing itself, we're going to get into it. This time you want the weight far out in front of you, because as soon as you lift it off the ground, you're going to pull it this way. So it's going to be here, and then you pop up. And there's your swing. Now it's a pendulum. So this swinging should be nice and loose, fluid, meaning I'm not doing this here. At the end of my exercise, I shouldn't feel like I use my neck and my shoulder muscles too much. I should feel it here, and I should feel it here. So I'm going to do that one more time so you can see. I do my hinge movement, get my hips back. I've got this here. I'm going to pull it through. That way I can just burst up through my hips. My shoulders are relaxed, and my hips back, my hips forward. Now, Couple little tricks, a couple little things that I like to think about when I do this here is, I told you I don't want to over exaggerate this here. A lot of people have that tendency. This exercise is great for cocontraction. What that means is I'm using my stomach muscles and my back muscles at the same time. So if I kind of think pubic bone pulled up a little bit, rib cage pulled down, but then get myself very upright, shoulders back. If I hold that there, I'm gonna feel tight and strong in my stomach muscles. Even when I come up, so it's recommended, here's another mistake people make, is they kind of over exaggerate this part. They throw their hips forward. Don't do that. Instead, at the very top, it's kind of a squeeze of your butt. Here's how I squeeze my butt. It's as if I'm gonna squeeze my heels in like this, but they're on the floor, so they're not actually gonna do that. But if I do that, I'm contracting those hips, squeezing that butt, and at the same time, I'm pulling up here. Those two things at the very top are gonna get you to engage tight, but you're not gonna overextend those hips there. So it'll look like this. And as you do that, you're gonna get that core activation. So again, this is good for the posterior chain, meaning hamstrings, glutes, all of the core stability in there. So there's some different options that you have. That is your kettlebell swing. So who should not do this? First, and it should go without saying, if you've done this several times and you feel like you always hurt your back, you're looking for the regressions. You're looking for something else to do. This might not be a good exercise for you now. Maybe it is later, maybe not. That's where you are going to want to work with somebody and decide if this is a good exercise for you. Somebody who has a recent episode of maybe a disc bulge, sciatica, this is going to put those forces on the back that maybe you're going to want to hold off on this for a while. People that have instability, meaning their core's not strong, this can be a good exercise, but just make sure you don't need other core stability exercises first. Sometimes you need to do the very basic, simple, fundamental exercises, things that really just get you used to engaging that core before you do this. Otherwise, you end up in one of those positions that I was telling you before, and you could end up hurting yourself. So this is where you kind of maybe want to work with somebody and have somebody help you out. But anyway, those are the little tips that I have for your kettlebell swing. Hope you got something out of it. And then if you have any questions, as always, let us know.